Stop thinking and start creating. That's the premise of this video. It's exactly what the title is. That's exactly what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to do my best to keep this as short and concise as possible because I value your time. This is take 2 because I've literally already just filmed this video, but I just realised, as you can tell, I'm in a completely different setting than the videos that I normally put out on this channel. I'm in a really raw, natural setting. I'm visiting my parents in Ireland right now, so I have the luxury of a beautiful natural backdrop right next to their house. It's fairly quiet. All I can really hear is the birds chirping and a little plane going overhead. So I don't really have the opportunity to film videos like this at home with ease. So I'm taking that opportunity right now. And literally, normally at home I would use like a tripod and studio lighting and a script and read from an auto cue and all that jazz. But as you can see, I literally have 3 notes on a notepad. I'm recording the audio on my wife's phone using an audio recording app, and I'm using a tree stump and a little log as a tripod. And the reason I have to do a second take of this video is because the first take, all you could see was everything from here below. You couldn't even see my face. So hopefully this is framed a little bit better. It's totally rough and ready, so apologies for that if that's an issue. But as I was just saying in the previous take, it's something that I'm willing to do right now, is just to experiment with the videos that I'm putting out there, experiment with the style, because it's an important part of being creative and creating anything. Part of my background, for the past decade, I've been self-employed. I've worked for myself. I've started businesses. I've sold businesses. That's been my livelihood. That's what sustained me financially, and also in a creative sense as well. And it's something that I quickly learned when starting my first business, is that, you want to make mistakes. You want to make mistakes as quickly as possible, because when you make mistakes, you learn from them, and those mistakes really stick with you. And the solution, if you're trying to solve a problem and you make a couple of mistakes along the way and then you eventually find a solution, that sticks with you as well and you never forget it. So it's super beneficial. So don't be afraid to make mistakes if you are, say, starting a business, which I'm not necessarily thinking that you are going to. If you've clicked in this video, I think you're maybe more so looking to create content or just be more creative in general, but perhaps you are looking to start a business as well. But it doesn't really matter, because foundationally, if you're looking to create anything, even if you're looking to just create a relationship, so if you're looking to meet new friends, or if you're looking to find a partner, or someone to settle down with, you shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes. You have to put yourself out there. You've got to be vulnerable. We can't all be wrapped in cotton wool for the rest of our lives. That's just not how life works. You've got to put yourself out there, make mistakes, fail, and you'll find success. That's essentially the blueprint to being successful in life. Anybody who appears to be successful to you, it's the common kind of cliche, an overnight success. There's no overnight successes. There's maybe some unicorns out there, some rare unicorns out there, but most people are not overnight successes. They have went through a lot of trials and tribulations. They've made a lot of failures, made a lot of mistakes, and it's just the fact that they're not that sexy. You don't get to see those. You get to see the sexy, beautiful, amazing, successful outcome. And it's kind of like, you imagine like an iceberg, if you imagine someone's success or sort of life path as the iceberg, and the tip that you see above the water is their success, but really underneath there's that massive chunk of grueling failure that they've had to go through in order to get there, in order to break out of the water. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there and make mistakes. So that's exactly what this video is proving. It is not perfect at all. This is just totally rough and ready and raw as it can be. So stop thinking, start creating. That's what you need to do. So right now I'm in this natural setting, and what this essentially symbolises is life. It's raw and it's ever changing. It's the one constant that always remains, ironically. It's the one thing that doesn't change is change. That is what life is all about. There is a cyclical element to it, just as we will go through the winter and come into spring and then go through summer and autumn and then return back to the winter. There is a cyclical element to life, but essentially there's just constant change, and one winter is never the same as the next. One summer is never the same as the next. You know, there'll be certain elements that are similar, but you're always in a different state. Life is always in a different state. It's constantly changing. And you have this intrinsically inside you. It's a natural element of your being, is that you crave change, you crave progress, and this all stems from transformation. That's essentially what change is. It's transformation. It's going from one state to another state, and the magic happens in between, you know, the movement between point A to point B. You know, it's that old cliche that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And it's true. If you've ever pursued anything in life, we all can't wait to reach that goal. We can't wait to have that certain amount of money in our bank account, or have that house we've always dreamed of, or the wedding that you've always dreamed of, or go on the trip that you've always dreamed of, to get to that place. But you tend to find that the real magic and beauty happens on that journey. You know, that's where all of the memorable, important, you know, stories that you have that you look back on, they all come from that. It's the things that you didn't actually quite expect. And as well, because we all seek change, we all seek progress, it's never enough, unfortunately. As much as you have this desire for progress and change, it's almost an insatiable desire. You will reach a certain goal or milestone, and those goalposts that you had initially will move. You know, you'll get there, and guess what? Now the goalpost is just a little bit further ahead, and you're going to have to toil and suffer to reach that goalpost. And when you hit there, well, you know what happens? That goalpost moves again. So you're never going to be fully satiated. But at the same time, if you don't seek progress, if you don't create, in a sense, and like I said, creation doesn't have to be about being like typically creative. Like, it doesn't have to be about making videos like this, or writing, or being an artist, or what have you. You can be an artist in your own sense. You can be an artist by creating, you know, different relationships, or creating businesses, creating ideas just to put out there in your own form. So don't think about it so rigidly as, you know, being creative is about being a painter or a filmmaker or an artist. No, you can be creative just simply by changing your daily routine. You've just created a new daily routine for you. That is being creative. And you can make mistakes as well as you try to dial down the perfect daily routine for you. And again, that's going to change as well depending on where you are at your life. The perfect routine for you as you are right now is going to be totally different from a decade later, or it'd be totally different a decade ago. So that is essentially the core theme of life, is that it just revolves around change, and there's no point in you fighting the flow of change or fighting the flow of that theme. You want to quickly embrace that, because that's where you're going to get stuck, you know. And you probably clicked on this video just now, I'm assuming, because you have a desire to create, but you feel like you are not creating as much as you should, or you feel like you're not creating at all. And there's a really easy solution to that, and it's just to start creating. Just stop thinking and just start creating. And I have been guilty of this. For the past 10 years, I've wanted to create content, to create videos, to write, to put my ideas out there into the world. For a long time, I told myself I wasn't good enough, I hadn't lived a long enough life, I hadn't experienced enough, I don't have the voice for it. I'm not American. Who's going to listen to me? Nobody's going to like my voice. I was actually told when I was studying filmmaking at college, I was told by a lecturer as well that you should never do voiceovers or record your voice and put yourself out there, because you just have a monotone, boring voice. And they didn't essentially say it in that way, but that was the kind of it was kind of how it was put out there, and that will stick with me for the rest of my life. But do you know what? The more you live life and you realise these are just limiting beliefs, whether you believe it or someone else tells you it, it's just purely a limiting belief. This is my second YouTube channel, and I'm going to try and prioritise this more, but I started one previously about 6 months ago, 6 months ago, and it was like a travel channel, and for me it's been going really well. It's been well received, and it includes me and my wife. It includes my voice and her voice, and like I said, we're not American, we're not your kind of typical people on social media, but we already have like a small community. People like the content that we put out. We obviously do have people who dislike it, but in the grand scheme of things, most people like it. They resonate with it, and it's just proof. It doesn't matter where you're from. There's so many people out there in the world. There's over 6 billion people or something like that. There's billions of people anyway. There's so many people that it doesn't matter where you're from. Don't use that limiting belief to stop you from being creative. Don't let that stop you from putting yourself out there. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. That's essentially what I'm saying, because you will find other people who resonate with you. You'll find other people who can connect with you, even just through a screen. As I hope that I'm connecting with you guys right now. So, like I said, this is a totally different style, very raw, rough and ready compared to the previous videos. Normally I've done, I've taken the time to write out, a whole kind of essay on a subject, and I'll literally read off of an auto cue word for word and try and make it as natural as possible. But if you've ever read off of an auto cue, obviously it takes time and practice to get more natural at it, but it's a very difficult thing to do. So this is a completely different style. As you can tell from the backdrop as well, the fact that I'm holding my wife's pink phone to record this audio and don't have a professional mic and all that sort of stuff. So I'll try and keep the whole edit sort of raw as possible. And I would love to hear your feedback. Let me know, what do you think about this style? Because essentially I want to serve you guys as much as I want to serve my own desire to be creative and put content out there. I want to find that balance. I want to connect with like-minded people, and I'm totally cool to do videos like this. It will take a little bit more effort when I'm back home to have to go to location and film stuff, but if this is what you guys connect with more, I'm more than happy to do that, compared to doing something like a sort of studio typical sort of like setup. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this sort of video? And just as a closing note on this whole topic is just for you and for me, be mindful. Be mindful of your balance of how much time you're spending being creative and how much time you're spending consuming content, because I feel like the way it is right now, it's so easy for us to consume like endlessly. Ever since they developed the sort of endless scroll, I don't know if you remember, back in the day, like on any sort of like internet platform, like you would have to go to page 2 and then page 3 and then page 4. Like you couldn't just keep on scrolling. Like there's no end to it now. This is the kind of the thing, the problem with like short form content, but even just long form, like content on YouTube, is that there is no end. You could just keep scrolling endlessly. And I think that is the problem, is that it really does encourage us to just consume non-stop and not create. And as we've just discussed, it's an inherently natural desire for you to want to create. So I think this is where a lot of people are becoming down. It's maybe why you've clicked on this video, because deep down in yourself, as I did, literally 6 months ago, that you're just consuming so much. You're consuming so much and you're not creating. And that scale, if you imagine this imaginary scale where you've got your creative output and your consumption output on like a daily basis, where's that scale tipped? And for most people, it's heavily weighted on the consumption side, and there's virtually no creativity. And it doesn't have a good outcome, I don't think. I don't think it's healthy for ourselves and for those around us as well. So, like anything in life, it all starts with one small step. So, even if that means after watching this video, closing down your YouTube app and going out for a walk, or going and making a dinner, or just writing your thoughts on this video, or writing out, how much you think you've been consuming and how much you've been creating and what you can do to change that. Even if that means coming off the YouTube app and that completely, screws the analytics for this video, that's fine. I don't care. Like, you guys need to make sure you're putting yourself in a position to win at life. And like I said, there is no end. It's ironic, although there's no end to the sort of endless scroll of consuming, there's no end to being creative as well. You'll find that when you start creating more, there's never enough time. That's why I've not been able to devote lots of time to this channel, because I'm spending lots of time working on my first channel. And then you've also got everything in life that life throws at you that you've got to work towards as well. So there's never an end. But like we said, it's all about the journey. It's not about the destination. So focus on improving that balance bit by bit. It doesn't have to be extreme. You don't have to go cold turkey and stop consuming completely and go monk mode and start creating 24 hours of the day. But just be mindful of it, be conscious of it, and just seek balance and try and find that sweet spot. But don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And don't be afraid to lean on the extremes from time to time. Bounce between the extremes of consuming a lot and creating a lot, because within that sort of pendulum swing, that's where you create transformation. That's where you create change. That's where you'll be your most creative. And hopefully you'll find yourself in a better place in life as well by doing that. So thanks very much for watching this. I'd love to hear your feedback on this style of video, the rawness of it. I'm going to do my best to shoot as much content as I can of this sort of style while I'm here in Ireland, but I'm also going to be balanced, and I'm also going to spend time with my family as well. So thanks very much for watching. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you on the next one.